Hello, hello. Hi, this is Puneet. Hello, am I audible to anyone? Hello, hello.
Hello. I can
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
you.
Now I'm able to hear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Miraj, are you there?
Yes.
Miraj. So, Abhijit. So, Abhijit is there. I can't see him. Abhijit. So, is this Ajay? Sorry, Ali.
Yes, I'm here.
So, you are Ali, right?
Yes.
Hi, Ali.
Hi.
So I am Puneet, so I'll be the trainer for this course. I'm really sorry to join late because there was an issue with that login credentials. Actually, my original or my previous, login ID was saved in GoToMeeting.com software, and there was an issue. It was, again and again, using the same earlier credentials. So now,
No
I'm unable
problem.
to change that. Yeah. So sorry about that. So there is one more guy.
Quick question. Can we access the material, offline? Is it being recorded so we can?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is already recorded. So if you can see in that right pane,
Okay.
the plane. So if you see at the lowermost side, this session is being recorded in the red button,
Okay.
against the red button. If you see, so this is already being recorded. Okay. Okay. So Abhijat is not joining today. Okay. So you are able to see the chats, right? Ali,
Yes.
you are able to view the chats, right?
Yeah, chart. Are you sharing it?
Yeah, it is visible to everyone. So,
Yeah, I can't see it then.
okay, no problem. So I'll checking this. Okay, no problem. So let me share my screen. Okay, so before starting this, Ali, why don't you just introduce me, introduce yourself to me so that we get an idea about uh, what all experience you have and what is your expectations and everything like that.
Yeah, I have some experience with R, but I like to learn a little bit more. So this course sounds interesting. That's why I'm here.
Okay, and about your experience, how many years of experience you have total and in which streams, in which softwares?
Oh, over 20 years.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, okay. So you are based out of East Coast, right?
West Coast, Seattle,
Okay, West, Washington.
right?
Okay, fine. Okay, so let me give you the brief overview of the course, which we will. Okay, so there are basically two students who have enrolled for this course. So one is you, of course, and other one is Abhijat. So he will be, joining us from tomorrow. So uh, we will be starting, but that's not a problem. So let me first share my screen to you. So I have shared my screen. So let me know when it is up.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So this course basically data analytics with R. It will be spanning approx in around 5 weekends. So around 10 classes we'll be having, and we'll try to cover a lot of things here. So in today's class, I will be giving you the introduction of data analytics with R course. Then we'll be doing the installations of R and R Studio. Then we'll be looking about the basic data types of used in R. Then in next class or class 2, we'll be doing subsetting in R, then reading from different sources and exploratory data analysis. Then in class 3 and 4, we'll be again, reading files from various sources and then random variable distribution. So there are a couple of distributions like normal distribution and standard normal. So we'll be looking at those, T distribution of course. Then sampling distribution, estimation and hypothesis testing. Then class 5. So generally I have seen that it takes 2 classes. So that's why I've written class 3 and 4 in row number 16. Then in class 5, we will be doing linear regression. Then class 6, logistic regression. Class 7, clustering and decision trees. Then in class 8, market basket analysis and survival analysis. Then class 9, sentimental analysis and principal component analysis. And in last class, which is class 10, I'll be taking a big data set, huge data set, and we'll be solving a problem using various techniques which we have learned at that point of time. Apart from that, once everything is covered, or the 10 classes or 11 classes or 9, whatever they may be, once this entire content is completed and understood, then we will be giving you an assignment containing 3 to 4 questions, and that will be given to you, and you have to complete that in a fortnight or in a week. I mean, whatever time you take for that, because it will be a big assignment. And once you reply back to us with decent with reasonable solutions, then we'll be issuing you Design Pathshala certificate or certification. Sounds good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So Miraj is asking you your phone details. So this chat you can read, right? Just wanted to make sure that you are reading all the chats. Hey Ajay, you are able to view these chats now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just share your phone details afterwards or whenever you have time to us so that we'll contact you in case there is any problem. Okay. Okay. So let's begin with the introduction part. So why we are using before that Ajay, uh, like uh, did you have any chance in your career so far to do any type of analysis or predictive modeling, any that type of stuff?
Sure. We use machine learning in various projects.
Okay. So so you want to have good coding experience in R, uh, right?
That's right.
Okay, good. So first is why business analytics. So uh, like in insurance, so there are a couple of sectors where predictive modeling or machine learning is getting heavily used nowadays. So for example, if we take any insurance company, so it relies heavily on forecasts because obviously it wants to assess risks before giving any policy to any person or subscriber, and they want to assess that whether it would be profitable to give that person that type of particular type of insurance, and hence accordingly they do the underwriting methodologies or underwriting procedures in order to give them the type of policy which is applicable to that type of person. So in this case, they rely heavily, insurance company relies on predictive modeling to basically score the risk involved to that particular type of person, right? So there are a lot of examples. I've just listed some of them. Second, in hospitality or in healthcare industry in United States, there are a lot of problems that a lot of people are getting admitted to hospitals, even they are not required to do so. So each year more than 71 million people are admitted, and a lot of unnecessary hospital admissions happen. So a predictive model, with the help of predictive modeling, we can create a model which, basically whenever the customer details or customer historical data is entered into that, or the medical records data, his patient's history, then it can obviously, give some idea or give some help that whether this person really requires any hospitalization or not. And second, apart from this, it also, this model, predictive model, can also give the idea that how much medical equipment or medicines or treatments that person may require in future. So scalability point of view also, this model can answer few of the questions. So two things: one, whether that person or patient really needs any hospitalization, and second, what would be the scalability of that treatment. So these two things, can be answered using predictive modeling. Then third, in the finance industry, where, so in our lives, everybody has taken loans, unsecured or secured in both sense, and we have a lot of our credit history being recorded in credit bureaus and different credit card companies and so on. So we can create a custom model in R that tracks the entire activity, that can track the entire customer activity as far as his loans or mortgages are concerned. And since everything is there in the system, so it can for any future purpose, if a customer is wants to have another loan or another mortgage, then that model can obviously tell that how much monthly EMI this customer can afford in future by looking into various nuances and nitty-gritties of his situation. So it can combine each and everything, that okay, this person has this much of salary and he belongs to that this particular state where GDP is so much and where this much growth can happen in future, and he has taken so much amount of loan already, that loan is running in his books, and given his salary of so much, then in future he is applicable or he is entitled to only this particular type of loan, so that he cannot so that he should not default, obviously. So in order to do away or get rid of that default, so this model can be built which can give the exact EMIs or exact monthly installments this customer is applicable to. So far so good?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm on mute. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no problem, no problem. So now these are some
Just
definitions.
a quick question. Is there a link to the PowerPoints and all the materials in the course?
Yeah. So I was about to tell you all that. So, so we are keeping everything in the cloud, which is basically through Google Drive. And so what I'll do, I'll add you there. I will share that particular folder with you and the other guy. And then, and as and when the content gets completed in the class, so post that class, I'll make sure that I'll place that particular file in that folder.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So, so definition point of view. So what is business analytics? It's basically study of business data using statistical techniques and programming and so on to achieve some business goal. And who creates it? It is basically we, the statisticians or data scientists or business analyst, who basically creates different sorts of predictive models and statistical methods to run these techniques. And where it is being used or who uses it. So as we discussed or as we seen in the last three scenarios, so like whether it is an insurance company or finance sector or healthcare sector, so also in telecom, which I will show you in the later parts of the slide. So it is being getting used in a lot of different industries and different verticals. So what all different tasks we can achieve through R, especially as far as business analytics is concerned. So statistical analysis, of course, like market basket analysis or linear regression, logistic regression, and all those topics which I showed you in the Excel file. And then the data exploration, data mining. So data mining in the sense, once you have different data sets that in R, then you can obviously do the joining and merging and create a consolidated data set out of those. And predictive models, and the last one is data visualization. So R is very good in data visualization. It has lot of powerful packages, which I'll tell you what is a package. So basically it's a combination of libraries and different functions, customized functions. So there are around 5,000 packages that are currently being built in R, and it has lot of graphical packages which we can use to create very beautiful charts out of it, which is not possible in other softwares, which we'll appreciate in the course whenever we are doing that. So in visualization, R is very powerful, other than in predictive modeling and statistical analysis. So what is R? It's a data analysis software. So as we all know, so this is the GUI of R Studio. So R Studio is basically a modified version of base R. It has a better graphical interface, and we'll be using R Studio only in the entire course. So that's it for this slide. Then it is a programming language. It's a basically scripting language, right? And so you can write the commands in the console also, and we can have the editor also, where we can type all the different types of commands. So it's basically scripting language or command line language, which gives a lot of advantages when you are running R or doing analysis using R, because when we have, of course, the flexibility of coding, then we can do a lot of customizable functions. We can write them, and we can do a lot of different types of analysis, which is not possible, which may not be possible in other types of tools that are entirely GUI or GUI based. So it's an environment for statistical analysis. So as I told you, that there are a lot of functions and libraries and packages in R which can do two basically main things. One is the predictive modeling, and second is graphical computability or the data visualization. So we will be mainly using R for these two things, because R is very powerful in both of these, data visualization and predictive modeling. Generally, what I do all the data preparation in Oracle SQL. So that's my way of doing this. So first I do the preparation using Oracle SQL, and then using RODBC drivers, Oracle Database Connectivity drivers. I used to connect R with Oracle, and then I import those data sets in R, a combined data set in R, and then I concentrate my energy to do only predictive modeling in R. So that's the way I do it, because I think Oracle SQL can be more suitable for the as far as data preparation is concerned, and obviously then predictive modeling and data visualization we can do very much in a very comfortable way now.
But if you have big data, it would be unadvisable to move data to your machine to do the analysis. So in those cases, you mentioned Oracle, but in some other database like Teradata, you could install R on Teradata node. But generally, what do you do when you have big data? I mean, it would be difficult to move data around.
Correct. So for that, so like for example, if I talk about AWS or Amazon Web Services, so there it has the EMR functionality, Elastic MapReduce. So one of the utilities of AWS. So there, like these Hadoop and all those big data tools or softwares and R, they are already pre-installed in that. So there we don't need to move around any data there. So did I answer your question, or you were asking something else?
No, I think you are answering it. You mentioned generally you move data, you do your query and run it. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah. So
for
basically,
small data you could, but when
yeah, exactly. But for a big data, for the big data thing, so whenever we use AWS, so it has the Amazon S3 as a storage server. So there we basically, since R and Hadoop and everything is pre-installed in EMR or Elastic MapReduce, so there it's entirely different game altogether. But the one which I told you, transferring data through RODBC, that's of course is for small data sets. It can't be done for very big data sets.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the biggest advantages of using R is that it is open source and free. So, so in future slides, I'll show you, I'll compare it with SAS, and we'll appreciate the different advantages and disadvantages of R there. So it is open source. So it's source code is open for modification. And so there are some riders like in GNU, it is R is basically a GNU project. So there are very few riders that you can't simply do the modifications in entirety, but it can be modified to some extent, and of course it is free. Anybody can download it, install it, and run it. Then another very big advantages which R has is that it has a very strong community of around 2 million users, and they share a lot of things across various sharing portals, like whether it is R bloggers. So if you type in Google R bloggers, then there is a entirely different portal for that, where you can share your views, and you can see that what the community is saying about recent updates in R or recent technological advancements in R. And also there is a website R4J, so there also you can see a lot of stuff. Then in GitHub, so GitHub website, so there also it has done a lot of things in R. Then there is a Revolution Analytics. It is a company uh, currently being recently purchased by Microsoft in April 2015. So Revolution Analytics has done tremendous work in R, and it has created a lot of products on top of this free software. And not all those softwares are freely available. Some of them has to be paid. So for example, RevoR. So RevoR is the product from Revolution Analytics, and it has two versions. One is free and one is paid. So after so when the Microsoft has acquired it in April there, so R has got a very big, you can say, boost or fillip, in the sense that uh, it is being endorsed by such a big company. So for this example, so for this in this way that R is really got a very big hands up, and around 2 million users use R worldwide, and this number is maybe it is 3 or 4 year old data. That 2 million number, it might have increased to 5 to 6 million now. Yeah, so R bloggers is a website you can go for to know all different things. And there is also one more community, CRAN, which I'll tell you in later part of the slide. Okay, so this is the evolution of R. So it got started as capital S, as some project by John Chember and Richard Becker in 1977, and then it ultimately S got modified to R in New Zealand by Ross Ihaka and Robert Gentleman. So they say why we call this language as R, because Ross Ihaka and Robert, both has their first name initials starting with R. So that's how this name got christened as R only. So it signifies the founders, the initials of the founders, Ross Ihaka and Robert Gentleman. Then it made open source later in 1995, and then subsequently in 2013 its version 3.0.0 got released on a 64-bit platform. So I think currently 3.1.3 is the latest one which is being running. Now comparing R with BaseSASS, so R is open source, free, but BaseSASS, we all know that it is quite expensive due to annual licenses. Then R has a lot of support from Twitter or Stack Overflow, and R bloggers, which I told you, and R4J and GitHub, and all these uh, different communities. And but of if we compare this with SAS, so since SAS is licensed software, so it has also a very good documentation which SAS Institute, who is the owner of SAS, provides. Now, one bit of a disadvantage for R is that it is, it goes for a toss when we have very big data sets. I mean, 4 GB, 5 GB, or even 3 GB. So I haven't worked with very big data sets through desktop, R desktop. So this is a disadvantage because R completely runs in RAM, and when we have very big data sets, SAS scores over R because SAS Institute has given or SAS software has it has evolved into a product that can cater a very big data sets. But now this is a call which has to be taken that whether you are dealing with very big data sets or if someone is dealing with decent size of data sets, because SAS is very expensive. There are annual licenses, so it depends on the usability. But on top of this, having said that, R has developed few other functionalities to cater big data. So for example, uh, R can be run on the cloud, and so for example the AWS thing which I was talking about, so there obviously large instances can be rented from Amazon Web Services, and there the things are not that expensive. So, and also some of the packages are being created in R, which can do a bit of the optimization, but of course our desktop is cannot cater with very big data sets. You have
What
some
about
question?
comparing R and Python? Have you looked at Python?
So the I haven't worked in Python, but I know that PySpark is one of the softwares that is being used for statistical analysis or predictive modeling using Python. PySpark, but I haven't worked in Python.
Okay.
Then Ajay, you have worked in Python, right?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. Then R has very good graphics, graphical functionality, which which I also said in the beginning somewhere, and in SAS, the graphical computability is not that up to the mark as that in R. So I mean, if we do the trade-off thing, like for example, the current company where I'm working, they we used to work with R quite a lot for last couple of years, and we haven't faced that much of a difficulty given the scenario or the condition that R is free. So we haven't faced that much of a problem. But of course, if SAS is if someone can afford SAS to that extent, then so it depends on the applications. If you have very big data sets, then I can say that SAS may be a better thing, but it depends entirely on the usability. What has to be used, what is required. Then R has multiple GUI like R Studio. So we'll be using R Studio entirely in this course, and SAS GUI are obviously everything is licensed. So, and one thing more, that you can create custom functions in R very easily because it's a command line language, and it's in this thing also R scores better than SAS. So any question in this slide?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Now if we compare the job trends, then from 2011, as we can see in this graph, or 2012, our job postings, if you compare the job postings across different tools, so this is a comparison between R and SPSS. So I mean, job postings for R has increased tremendously in last couple of years, especially as per this graph from January 2012. So there's huge demand of R. So I've also seen personally that if you go back 3 or 4 years from now, then SAS has SPSS, they used to have a lot of demand. I mean, in every job posting you can see in data, if you want to enter into data analytics, you need to know SAS or SPSS. But if you look at the today's scenario, I mean, I can see everywhere R, everywhere R. So R has really gained a lot of popularity in recent years. And also, if you happen to look at some websites, competition websites like Kaggle.com, so in Kaggle, they used to create, they have competitions running around the year, and they are 99% of the solutions which students give, they are basically based out of R only. So and Kaggle, so the concept of Kaggle is that it runs some competitions and then it gives you some time and data set, of course, and students come out with their solutions, and the winner gets a very good amount of compensation for that, or the dollar value. So what I have seen that more than 95% of them come out with solutions based out of our software. Then products, RStudio, of course, which we'll be using, and RevoR, created by Revolution Analytics. So RevoR has two versions, free and paid. So but we in this course we'll be using RStudio only. So, but I will recommend you to go through the website of Revolution Analytics, maybe through Wikipedia or anything. So it has done a lot of work in R. I mean, if I say a company who has devoted maximum amount of their bandwidth in some tool, for R it is Revolution Analytics, which is purchased by Microsoft recently. Then, given the popularity of R, other companies like SAS or Teradata and Oracle, they have also started integrating R in their environment, so that they can give this functionality right from their environment only. So I mean, that we can see that how R is gaining popularity day over day. So who uses R? So whether it is telecom or pharma or financial service, I mean, nowadays in any industry, also even in logistics, R is getting used tremendously. So these are some of the companies: Bank of America, Foursquare, a lot of them using R tremendously. Whether it's a Visa, MasterCard, PNG, or CPG industry, consumer packaged goods. Okay, let's see some of the use cases of R. So a retailer is interested to find out the association between different products. So big stores, whenever we visit, whether it is Walmart or any other store, so there is always an analytics that has gone behind in the placement of products. So for example, if in some store product A, B and C are kept together, then obviously it has some meaning. So there is a very famous case study done by Walmart way back. So what it found that young Americans on Friday afternoons, so whenever they purchase, young fathers basically, so whenever they purchase diaper of their kid, they have a tendency to buy beer also. So I mean, this was a very famous case study that Walmart came out with. So what it did, it looked at its transactional data of last couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years. So point of sales data, it looked into that, and it found a very interesting revelation that whenever Americans are buying diapers, they are also buying beer. So what they did is that they do the assortment of products in a way that by keeping beers or diapers side by side. So that's one of the solutions they came out with, so that if a guy is forgetting to buy beer, he has only, so he has a tendency to buy beer also whenever he's buying a diaper, but it may be a possibility that he is having less time, and he forgot at that point of time that he really wants beer. But if these two products are kept close to each other, then obviously he will remember that soon, just when as and when he sees that thing, oh, it is being kept right here. So your sales will go up, definitely your revenue will go up. And there is another way of looking at this, is that you put beer and diaper not very close to each other, but at some distance, and that is being done purposely because you may have put some other products in between these two products, which you deliberately want that customer to visit, because you are very sure that he will definitely go for beer once he had bought diaper. So in order to do the upselling or cross-selling, you want him to see other products also which you want him to buy. So this interesting patterns of assortment of products can be done with market basket analysis. This is the technique which we will be covering in our course, of course, and it helps us in getting the associations or affinity across different products, retail point of view. Then another a very big area where predictive modeling is used is uh, churn in telecom industry. So churn is a very big headache in telecom. So churn modeling can be done here, where different uh, patterns can be found. Okay, if a customer is coming from this particular price plan, or he is coming from this particular credit class, and this different age or gender or city or his residential status, that whether he's living in his owned apartment or rented apartment, and what is the length of his residence, right? And what is his demographics, and what is his income, household income, and uh, what is the GDP of that state where he is residing, and how many children he has, whether he has car or not. So, I mean, so I've done this churn modeling, and when I was in telecom industry, and it is, I mean, very popularly used this technique, churn in telecom, and their predictive modeling is a very advantageous to use there, and it really helps in coming out with trends to understand that what type of customers, I mean, what is the trigger point of any customer to churn, and how we can increase the tenure of that customer with us, because ultimately customer will churn maybe after 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, but the real issue was that the customers who are churning in just 30, 60 or 90 days, or even in 6 months. So that's the pain point, because a lot of marketing and acquisition costs is being uh, beared by the company, and if a customer is leaving in just 30, 60 or 90 days, soon after it is entered into the system. So that's a big loss for any telecom company. So once we know the different parameters, maybe it's a price point, or maybe it's a competition, or maybe it's a price plan for that particular product. So that really helps. So logistic regression is one of the techniques which can be used to identify the likelihood of that customer to churn or not churn. Then Los Angeles Police Department, it has used predictive modeling in predicting the crime. So I don't know how many years back they started this, but there is a very interesting case study uh, by Los Angeles Police Department. So what used to happen that there were a lot of crimes that were happening in Los Angeles city, and they wanted to know, like, of course, I mean, it's the best scenario if they can predict the crime before it occurred. So there were two important parameters that goes into this model which they have created. One is that where in Los Angeles the crime can happen, and second, who is the who is that person, or who is the perpetrator who is most likely to do any crime or commit any crime. So these two are the important factors that goes into this model, and then based on the historical data of last maybe 4 years, 5 years, or 10 years, whatever they have done in their modeling. So based on these two factors, that where the crime has happened in the past and who has done that. So it comes out with very interesting, findings that okay, based on these scenarios and based on the periodicity of the events that has happened in the past, so this particular guy can commit this type of crime in that particular part of the city. So, so you can go through this case study offline whenever you have any, if you are interested to do so. Then sentimental analysis or text mining. So, like Obama's speech, like yes, we can, and a lot of famous speeches given by him, and you want to know that which are the words that are most frequently used in those speeches. So we will be covering this part. I think I have. Let me check whether I have put that there or not. Sentimental analysis. Yeah, it is there. Sentimental analysis. Okay. So we will be covering this part, and it is basically under the umbrella of sentimental analysis, where we will be creating the word cloud, and word cloud will tell us exactly the most frequently used words, and so that's the one part. And another part is that suppose you want to understand or analyze the perception of your company in social media. So sentiment analysis can be a useful thing to understand the perception of company's brand or company's image in social media. So we'll be doing the perception analysis or sentiment analysis of one of the companies, and we'll use Twitter as a social media, and we will do entire thing using R through APIs, application programming interfaces. So I'll show you. So whenever we'll do sentiment analysis, we'll cover this part. So any question, Ajay, till now?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Then let me show you the Google Drive. So can you just quickly send me your Gmail ID that I can share this with you?
My Gmail is abahrami@gmail.com. I think. Let me see if that's correct.
A dot, or you can type in the chat window. That would be great.
Abahrami.
If possible, just type in the chat window.
I have to check on that. I don't use Gmail, but
So any other email ID? Just type that.
any other email? abahrami@yahoo.com. ABAHRAMI @yahoo.com.
Where I am writing. So is this correct? A dot
No, just
ABAHRAMI.
Yeah, you don't need a dot. Just
Okay.
Abahrami. Get rid of a dot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So do you have this R already installed in your system?
Yes.
So both base R and R Studio, right?
Right.
So R Studio also it is installed. If not, then
Yes.
I've shared two softwares here.
Okay.
So
Yes, I have RStudio.
okay, okay, perfect. So in the same Google Drive, I'll be adding uh, other things. So I will create different folders of
Okay.
PPT and exercises and uh,
I
assignment
have
and
older
so on.
version of
So
RStudio, so probably I need to upgrade that.
okay, yeah, yeah, that, that you check offline and
Right.
okay, okay.
So will you send me that link to the Google Drive?
So I've already shared this thing with you. So I think you have received some email. If not, then send me send me an email in my email ID,
Okay.
uh, and I'll send you again. So I've just send you shared this thing with you.
Okay.
Okay. So since you have already uh, installed, then it's good. Then we will skip away with these slides. And so you said so you have worked earlier in R, right?
Say that again.
So you said that you have already you already have some experience working in R, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, okay, okay. So CRAN is a place where all the updated packages are located, and it also contains documentation of different functionalities of R. So whenever we do install packages in R, then it automatically first, by default it goes to CRAN and looks for that package. If it does not find there, then we have to manually give the path, maybe of GitHub or R4J or different website or any link where that package is located. But by default it goes to CRAN, and I think CRAN contains around 5,000 packages. So it's a rich source of our utilities, our functions and packages. So install.packages is a command which is used to install any package, and then library is used to load that installed package. So this is one of the example of installing a package called ggplot2. It is a graphical package which is used to create different graphs out of the data. Getting started. So this is the GUI of the base R. So we'll be using RStudio. So different mathematical calculations, you can use R as a calculator. So since you already have some experience, so I think this thing you already know. So let's open this RStudio. So just showing you some example of, so this is the editor and this is the console on the bottom side, left bottom side, and on right hand side we can have files, plots, packages, help, and so on. Okay. So packages in R, so that we have already discussed. There are lots of packages, around 5,000 packages. So we'll be using a couple of packages in this course. So I'll let you know about those packages whenever we are using them, of course. And then RStudio. So the same which I've just opened, the editor part and console part. So editor is on the top side here and console is on the bottom. Then any help if we require in R, then so for example there is a GLM function in R. I mean a lot of functions in R. So if we want to know that, okay, what is the advantage of using that or what all it contains, that's simply question mark GLM, and it will, on the right hand side it will give you the description that what GLM is used for and all that stuff. So a lot of documentation you will get here. So generally GLM is a generalized linear model, and we will use GLM in this course for running logistic regression. Okay. Yeah. So that's it. So that was an introduction which we have covered. Okay. So Ajay, any data type you are aware of in R?
Yeah, but it's good to review them.
Okay.
Like a string, integer, vector, list.
Correct. So as you said, so there are basically three types of vectors: numeric, character, and logical. So numeric, as the name suggests, is a numeric containing continuous values like 1, 2, 3, and all that. Then is a character vector, where you will give characters as its values. And third is the logical vector. So I'll show you that. So let me show you right away that how logical vector looks like. So this is assignment operator. So I am defining a vector A, and we put assignment operator, which is arrow and hyphen. So this is the numeric vector. If I do class of A, so as you can see in the console, you are able to view console, right? Console and editor where I am typing. So this is the numeric vector. So we can use class function to get the data type of anything, whether it is vector or list or matrix or data frame. And we also have str function, which basically gives the structure of the object. So str function is useful when we will be doing the str of any data frame that I'll show you later. Okay. Okay. So this is the logical vector. So is.na is a function, and I have written is.na bracket a. So a is a numeric vector. So what I am asking about the presence of any null value in the a vector. So in these type of cases, wherever I am running any condition or I want to know that what type of value is there, then the logical vector gets created. And if I do the class of this, let me store this value in some object and run this again. Okay. Okay, so you can see in the console it is saying logical. So this B vector is a logical vector, and it basically tells that whether it is the condition which you have mentioned, that whether it is true or false. So is.na of 1 is obviously false because 1 is not null value. Similarly for 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why it has given all the false. Right?
What is NA stands for?
So NA is basically null. So it checks is dot NA means
Okay.
that whether it is
It's not.
that particular value is null or not. Is it null? Is dot NA means is this null?
Good.
And there is one more command. Let me store that also in the B data in the B object. Not is dot NA. So obviously, as the name suggests, it will do the opposite. Now it will give all the truths. Right? So is dot NA and not is dot NA. So that's pretty much for vector. Then matrix. So so there are two ways of writing any table in R. One is matrix and another is data frame. So as far as my experience in R is concerned, matrix is not that much of a use. I have always used data frame because the biggest disadvantage of matrix over data frame is that in matrix you can only have single type of variable type. I mean numeric only. So in this case, if you see in this slide, so you cannot have a column in a matrix where one column contains numeric value and another column contains character values. So it will be all numeric. But in data frame, you can have numeric columns having numeric values also, another column with character values, and then again another column with numeric values. So this flexibility is not present in matrix. So I haven't used matrix much because it does not have much of the applications, but of course it is one of the data type. So we need to know that like what matrix is all about. So if I show you here, so you can also run this along with me if you want, so that since everything is installed in your system, then it would be really easy for you to do it. So I've defined, so the first argument of the matrix is the data which you want to put in the matrix. So 1 colon 20 are the 20 values starting from 1 till 20. And I am saying that distribute these values across 4 rows. So second argument of matrix is the row and third argument of matrix is the column. So if I write another matrix here, 1 colon 20, comma, let's say 5. Okay, so see the difference between the first and second. So the first matrix, I have left the third argument column as blank, and I am simply asking R to distribute these values in 4 rows because the second argument stands for rows, which is 4 in this case. Now I have defined another matrix empty one where I have left the row argument as blank and the column argument as 5. So I am asking it to distribute these values across 5 columns. So since here everything is looking same because of the nature of this data, because obviously if there will be 4 rows then there will be 5 columns, but I can write it in different way also. Right, so if I want this data represented in the form of 10 columns, then 1 colon 20 becomes the first argument. Second argument, which is row argument, is left blank, and then the third argument is the number of columns, which is 10 in this case. Sounds good? Okay. Now the data frame. So data frame we'll be using 90% of the time in R because of its flexibilities and functionalities. So here we can have
different data types like numeric and character in a single object, which is data frame. So for example, df data.frame, and so I'm naming the first column as x, and I have assigned a vector to this x, 1 colon 20. Then I'm naming another column as y, and I am assigning it to, and I am assigning character value to this. So let's say I'm writing Ajay. Okay. So this is the data frame which we obtained. So if I do class of df, of course it will be data frame, and now here str function will make sense. So str function gives column wise descriptions. So if you look at the console in the bottom, so it is describing that x is an integer and so are its values, and then y, and it is saying that y is a categorical variable or the character variable. So character or categorical variable is represented as factor in R. Okay, and it is saying that it contains only one label, which is Ajay. Then there is a function head. So head basically gives the top 6 rows. Okay, so the top, if you want to just simply look at the few rows of the data and want to see that whether what you have imported, is that thing imported correct or not, then you can write head. And also this is customizable. You can also write head df comma, let's say 8. So it will show you 8 rows. Okay. Similarly, we have tail. So it will give you the bottom 5 rows, 6 rows. Okay.
Okay.
So that was, and then we have call names function and row names function. So if I do here let's say call names of df, then of course we will get x and y, and this call names of df is also a vector. So if I write here class of this, okay, then this is a character vector. Why? Because it contains only character values x and y. So call names of df is again a vector, and it is a character vector, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So this part I have covered. So if so, you can give the names of the column right in the syntax in the command itself, in the data frame command, like x equal to this and y equal to this. If you will leave Okay. So you got that? What I've done? So this is.
You're not sharing anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me do that again. I think some moderator entered, so that's why that thing happened. Let me do it again. So you are not able to view my screen, right?
Right. I don't see your screen.
Okay. One second. What happened? Become the presenter. So let me just dial in again. Give me a minute, okay?
Okay.